to our last speaker, who I'm super excited to introduce. He is the uncle of the Sangha. I'm loving his beard at the moment. He looks great. And he's served not only Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Srila Bharati Maharaj. He spent time with so many Mahabhagavats, and he has so many realizations, so simple-hearted and so merciful. So I would like to introduce our loving Uncle Bhagvat Maharaj.
Can you hear me out there?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much, Yashodhari, for your very kind words. Mahabhuti, as always, an inspiration. I'm sorry I couldn't join earlier. It's a little early here in the morning for me. And then I was giving Srimad Bhagavatam class. I'm in Queens, New York. And I'm participating in the project of Premananda's development of that ashram upstate New York. So his brahmacharis have been down here in Queens, staying at one house, and that I'm also staying at. And
you gave a wonderful lecture there also at the opening. Thank you. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you. So I wanted to tell you, I mean, Mahabhuti covered so much ground, and I wanted to stay a little focused, if you don't mind, on some of my early experiences with Gurudev, because I think that they're very powerful experiences. And I think it would be very wonderful for the devotees. I first met Srila Gurudev in 1977. I was there at Prabhupada's disappearance. And that famous conversation that they had on October 8th, I arrived from the West. I had gone to the West to do some fundraising for the Bhubaneswar project, and I arrived back in Vrindavan on October 8th in the morning. And it's there in the folio, you'll see that Tamal Krishna is telling Srila Prabhupada that Bhagvat Das has just come from the West and he's here. And I sang Sri Guru Charana Padma from my Srila Prabhupada. That was the second time I was honored with that opportunity to sing Sri Guru Charana Padma to my Srila Prabhupada in person. So that evening, Srila Narayana Maharaj came to see Srila Prabhupada, and I remember standing at the door of Srila Prabhupada's room, nearby the door, watching him come in from the gate. And I was amazed at him, at seeing him. I was amazed at seeing his visage. He seemed to float along the ground when he was walking. And he was very refined. I remember looking at him and thinking, he's a very refined, clean, pure Vaishnava, very, very different from a lot of the other Vaishnavas I had seen in Gaudiya Math. He was extraordinary in his visage. And he entered into the room and they had that famous conversation, which is on tape in Hindi. And then, you please excuse me. And then after that, Srila Prabhupada the next day, I was in the room, maybe the next day or the day after, I was in the room with Srila Prabhupada, and he was lying on the bed. And Srila Prabhupada was lying there in a very deep, deep, peaceful way, totally not interacting with the material world, totally not interacting with the external world. He was internal, totally internal, very deeply internal. And Srila Narayana Maharaj came with several young brahmacharis. I think Tirtha Maharaj may have been in the group. And they came in to the room. And at that time I was doing Chaturmas, and I had a red beard, and I had I was chanting many rounds every day and eating only once a day the boiled rice and dal with no salt. So what happened was, he came in the room and he went over towards Srila Prabhupada. He offered respect. He said some things, some prayers. And then he got up, and I wanted to meet him. And he saw me and I saw him, and we just were attracted to each other. We just drew close. And I came up to him closely, and he asked me, I told him, I said, my name is Bhagvata Brahmachari. Are you Srila Narayan? Are you Narayan Maharaj? He said, yes, I'm Narayan Maharaj. You're Bhagavata Das? I said, yeah. So then he asked me, he went like this, because I had a red beard. Nobody else had a beard. I was the only one. He said, Kya, like, why do you have this beard? So I said, I'm doing Chaturmas, ek din ek bar. I'm eating one meal a day and I'm chanting. So he started smiling. He was very happy to see that some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples were following the strict vows of Chaturmas. So he took his hand and he put it under my elbow, this left elbow. And he said, come with me. Because we were at the foot, sort of a little away from Prabhupada's bed. He said, come with me. And he brought me right up next to Prabhupada's bed, escorted me by holding his hand under my left elbow. And he said, come with me, come look. I want to show you something. So he started pointing to Srila Prabhupada's body. And he said, you look at your Gurudeva now. You see him, your Prabhupada. And you see how his hands, Prabhupada's hands were over his head with this mudra like this. Both the hands, one a little below the other, over his head like this. And he said, you see the mudra? You see how your Prabhupada is holding his hands in this special mudra? He said, and look at his back. Prabhupada's back and head were arched like this. They were arched. So his head was here and his back, and it was like he was swaying with his hands like this. And then his 2 feet were on the tiptoes, one on the other. He said, you see the back is like this. He said, and see the feet on the tiptoes. He said, you see this beautiful position? He said, this is the dancing mudra, he said. And then he said, now he looked at me and, with those blue eyes of his, he looked in my eyes and he said, Now your Prabhupada is dancing with Radha and Krishna. And I was like, began to tremble. I couldn't believe, that. And I thought, wow, he actually knows these things. So then he sang Sri Rupa Manjari Pada for Prabhupada. And it was so beautiful. Everyone began weeping, hearing him sing Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. He sang that beautiful voice of his, that resonant tone that he has, And it just overwhelmed all of us. And everyone began weeping, and we were amazed at the quality of the sound vibration that was emanating from his voice. And then after a while, he and the brahmacharis left. And sometime later, Prabhupada came out of his deep meditation. And when he awoken, he woke up, they immediately tried to give him water to drink. They said, Prabhupada, you need to drink some water. Srila Prabhupada said, no, I don't want to drink any water. They said, but Prabhupada, we've measured how much urine you've passed and how much water you've drunk, and you're passing more urine than water that you're drinking, so you're going to dehydrate. Prabhupada said, yes, I know. So then we became nervous because we realized that Prabhupada was doing this purposefully. They said, Prabhupada, are you going to leave us? Are you going to leave us now by doing this? So he said, call Tamal Krishna in here. So then Tamal Krishna came into the room, and he was next to Srila Prabhupada's bed, and Prabhupada began to ask him the following question. Prabhupada said, I have just been talking with Krishna. So when he said that, I've just been talking with Krishna, then I realized that Srila Narayana Maharaj, at that moment, it became clear. He's a pure devotee because he said that Prabhupada was dancing with Radha and Krishna, and now Prabhupada is saying that he was just talking with Krishna. So here it is. It's all laid out, clear as day, for me to see. My guru is a pure devotee, Narayana Maharaj is a pure devotee, because he could see where my Guru Maharaj was, that he was talking with Krishna. So this was my first experience with Srila Narayana Maharaj, these two experiences. Later, on the day that Srila Prabhupada was leaving this world, Srila Narayana Maharaj, I had arrived before he did. I had come from Orissa, from Bhubaneswar, and I had arrived, and I went right into the room to see Srila Prabhupada. And I was at the head of the bed massaging him, massaging his head. And Srila Narayana Maharaj came in the room. I watched him come in the room. He walked in behind me, and then he kneeled down. So Prabhupada is on the edge of the bed. I'm there massaging his head. And I'm watching Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is exhibiting the Astasatvika Bhav. His body is trembling like this, and then the hairs are standing on end, and then tears are rolling from his eyes, and then he's roaring, and he's belching, and all these different ecstatic symptoms are emanating from his body. I'm looking at it and said, wow, he's giving us a class in Nectar of Devotion, only in reality. We're seeing it. We're seeing what he actually is written about in the books. And so he just, Prabhupada was exhibiting all these beautiful ecstatic symptoms. And we didn't know what to do. We were just doing kirtan. And Srila Narayana Maharaj came in the room. He came in, he came behind me, and he kneeled down next to the bed. So I'm right there. I'm 1 foot away from this. I had a front row seat to this whole exhibition that happened. And Srila Narayana Maharaj leaned forward and he put his hands like this and he whispered some mantra in Srila Prabhupada's ear. And when he whispered that mantra in Prabhupada's ear, Prabhupada stopped. All the ecstatic symptoms stopped. And I thought, wow, this is like Chaitanya Charitamrita. I was like watching the books come alive, where Swarup Damodar would recite mantra in the ear of Mahaprabhu and his ecstatic symptoms would subside. So I'm watching this play between these pure devotees. And then all of a sudden, Prabhupada takes his hand like this and he pulls all the way up over his head, over Narayana Maharaj's head, and he gives Srila Narayana Maharaj a blessing. So I was so fortunate in my life to witness these amazing, amazing pastimes between, this is my first introduction to Srila Narayana Maharaj. The first time I meet him, he's giving me shiksha. He's teaching me about Krishna consciousness, about my Guru Maharaj. He's showing me things about my Guru Maharaj that I had no way of understanding or realizing otherwise. Just amazing what I was able to experience from the very first moment that I met Srila Narayana Maharaj. And then later, when he came to America, I met him again. I met him again in 1996. I went to see him when Srila Gauragovinda Maharaj had left, and I was taking responsibility for Bhubaneswar again. And I went there to talk with him, and I met him again, and he remembered me. I said, "Can you remember me from when I was with Srila Prabhupada? I had the red beard. I was doing Chaturmas," and he went, "Oh," like that. He immediately remembered me, because at that time I was not where I had a mustache, but not a beard. Gurudev remarked about my mustache later. It was very interesting. I used to have this big handlebar mustache that I would curl like this. So when I took Vanaprastha saffron, I shaved it off. So Gurudev said to me on the morning walk, "Where's your mustache?" I said, "Gurudev, you gave me saffron. I can't wear a mustache with saffron. That's, for a grihasta to wear." He said, no. He said, "Why you shaved it off?" I said, "But Gurudev, why I was supposed to keep mustache with saffron?" He said, "I liked your mustache. It made you look like a great king." So then we were in Los Angeles later, and I took Tirtha Maharaj to see some Indians in Los Angeles, try and collect some donations. And one of the Indians was a palm reader, and he read Tirtha Maharaj's palm and he read my palm. So then we came back to see Gurudev's. And when we came to see Gurudev, Tirtha Maharaj started explaining to him what the palmist said, that we had met this palmist and what he said. So then Gurudev said, "Did he read his palm?" He pointed to me, and Tirtha Maharaj said, "Yes." He said, "What did he say about him?" And the man, Tirtha Maharaj said, "The man told that he's a great king, but he has no kingdom." and Gurudev said, "Yes, this is true." So I had some very interesting exchanges with Gurudeva in the early stages of my relationship with him, because he had been coming every year to America, and I would see him every year, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2000, but I never joined his group. I just would come and see him. I'd give a donation. I'd offer my obeisances, but I would never join him. And so finally he started shouting at me. He said, "What is the matter with you? Every year you come here, you give me money and you go away. Why don't you stay here and hear me speak? Why don't you listen to the Harikatha? Why are you just treating me like this? What is the matter with you?" And he started shouting at me. And I had this dream earlier, about a week or so ago, where Srila Prabhupada had come to me and he said, in this dream, he said to me, he was in my house, he said, "By now you were supposed to be a realized soul. What happened?" And he was standing there with his cane, pointing his cane at me, and I became very worried. And so when Gurudev was shouting at me like this, I looked up at Gurudev and I saw, like Mahabhuti had this experience, I saw Prabhupada again, standing there with the cane, and I realized this is Prabhupada coming to chastise me. So I went to hear Gurudev speak that night, and then the next morning I had the realization that the only time I made advancement was when I was with Srila Prabhupada hearing from him, and when I was with Srila Gaura Maharaj hearing from him, and that since Gaura Maharaj left and I wasn't hearing from any pure devotees, that I wasn't making any progress in my spiritual life. And I realized that I had to hear from Srila Gurudev if I wanted to make progress in my spiritual life. So I completely surrendered to Gurudev. And he wanted to give me this special gift, but I was still in this mood of, my big intelligence and my knowledge and my, ego. And so he said, "I wanted to give you this gift of this, I want you to hear this Gayatri mantra from me." So he started explaining it while he was giving it to me, and I was saying, "Yes, I know this and that, I know that." And he was like, "Okay." So he gave me the mantra, and and then when he left the room and he got in the car, and I was thinking,
Come on.
he wanted me to just listen. He didn't want me to comment. He didn't want me to say anything. He wanted me to just hear the mantra. But I spoiled the whole thing with my ego. So I ran out to the car and I went up to Gurudev and I said, "Gurudev, I'm sorry. You wanted me to just hear you chant the mantra, and I was not listening submissively. Please forgive me. Please chant the mantra again. Let me hear it. Let me hear you chant the mantra." And he smiled. He was so happy that I got it. So then he recited the mantra in my ear. But now, because I was in the proper mood, my whole body was trembling while I was hearing the mantra from Gurudev. Everything was like the Ganges washing my body and cleansing my consciousness completely. So it was a very powerful experience that I had with Gurudev in that time. And this, gradually, there's so many stories that I have of my relationship with him and of things that I did with him. I see here I have a few more minutes before I hit the half-hour mark. I just want to say there was one. mean, I can't be. There was one very special time I had with him. I consider this the all-time special moment I had with Gurudev. In Italy, I had preached to a bunch of devotees in Sicily who were Ritviks, and they had a Ritvik temple. And I explained to them, I was a sannyasi now, and I was explaining to them the importance of hearing from the lotus lips of the Guru. And they became very appreciative of who Gurudev was and his relationship with Prabhupada. And so this whole group of devotees, this whole group of Ritvik devotees, along with the temple, surrendered to Gurudev. And we made it into a Gurudev temple. The whole temple joined. It was like 10 devotees. So it was very, very auspicious. And I had preached to them and given them so many stories about Gurudev. And then they put up Gurudev's picture on the altar, and they were worshiping Gurudev and they were following everything. But then they didn't have the picture of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj on the altar. So the other devotees who had introduced me to them, Gurudev's disciples, they told me about this. So when I went there, I told the pastimes of Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj for 2 days. And I recited his prayers and his Radha Vinod Bihari Tatvastakam and his RT prayer to Bhakti Siddhanta. And I explained all the glorious things that Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj did. And after they heard the glories of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, then they put the picture of Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj on the altar next to Gurudev and Prabhupada. So I explained to Srila Gurudev what had happened in Italy and what I had done. So then on his Gurudev's appearance day, Srila Gurudev, when he was disappearance day, this was at Kartik, at his disappearance day, Srila Gurudev was offering the flower, the arti and everything, and then the flowers. And when he finished offering the flowers, he turned around and he was looking because he was trying to find me, and he saw me and he said, "You come." So I came over next to Gurudev and he took my hand and he took a bunch of flowers and put them in my hand. He said, "Here, now you offer flowers to my Guru Maharaj." So he gave me this entrance into a relationship with his Gurudev because I had glorified his Gurudev. And so I felt so fortunate that he blessed me with that opportunity. So it is these intimate relations that I had with Gurudev, these intimate pastimes that I remember that reveal his glorious nature, his great love and affection for devotees, and his great and wonderful, merciful nature that he bestows upon everyone. And by remembering these pastimes, I'm able to live from day to day in his separation, because this is his mercy on me, giving me this mercy of being intimate with him like this. So this allows me to have some opportunity to associate with him through these beautiful memories and pastimes. So this is a little something, a little drop from the ocean of my association with Gurudev. I have so many more stories that I can tell. If you give me another chance later in the year, I'll be glad to come and tell more stories about Gurudev. Thank you very much for your kind opportunity that you gave me to tell the stories today. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu vayavacha patitana bhavani.
Maharaji, what can I say? That was like having lightning strike and a cool wind simultaneously. It was absolutely electric, beautiful. And I love the way, actually I have so many questions for you, but we've run out of time. So maybe I'll take them offline. I have many questions from those past times. Yes, we will definitely have you back, please, Maharaj. In fact, all of our speakers today, we'd love you to come back. And I have I love the way in which you really brought Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudeva together in our hearts today. That was very special in more than one place. And I have a special request. Maybe you could lead it, Maharaj. When we finish off with a kirtan, why don't we sing Srila Rupa Manjari Pada as you referred to that beautiful bhajan? That would be wonderful to sing.